And we'll call to order the meeting of the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority. The time is now 6:02. And if you would call roll.
President Thompson,
Present.
Vice President Duffy,
Here.
Director Anderson,
Here.
Director Montgomery, Director Kirkland,
Here.
and Secretary Flores.
All right. And do we have any citizen communication?
No, ma'am.
None for tonight. We'll move on to item 4, approval of the minutes. We'll consider approval of the BCRUA minute meetings from October 23rd, 2024. This is the action item.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll move on to item 5, staff reports. Item 5A, consider a status update from the general manager regarding BCRUA capital projects.
President and board members, Aaron Archer with Walker Partners is going to give y'all a brief presentation on the status of the capital projects.
Good evening. Let me go back. Good evening. Thank you for the chance to give an update. I'm going to run through the same projects we've been doing for the last year or so, give you a brief update on the status and how we're doing contractually. The projects I'll cover today will include the Phase 2 raw water delivery system, the Phase 1D water treatment plant expansion, the replacement of the underwater pipeline, delivery point improvements, Phase 1 and 2, and the Phase 2A water treatment plant expansion. I want to start with the big one, the Phase 2 raw water delivery system. We issued NTP back in June of 2022, so we're beyond halfway on that project. Contractually substantial completion is February 16th, 2027, with final completion of April 17th, 2027. So we're at about 56% on a time basis, 945 days of 1,700. In terms of contract value, we have paid just under $117 million of the $225 million contract value to the contractor, which is Thale SAK Joint Venture. We have had one change order on the project for $237,000 in change, no change to contract time as part of that change order. That change order covered a number of things, but the primary item on it was to add some additional electrical improvements to tie a new generator at Cedar Park's water treatment plant into the Phase 2 system. They purchased those generators after we had started construction. And then with this particular project, the contractor is behind schedule. It has triggered the need for them to submit a recovery schedule, and a recovery schedule is still pending. I want to cover some of the work that has been completed on this project since the last update that I gave you. We did achieve a major milestone on the project. The contractor did complete the concrete cast-in-place liner on the intake tunnel, or the tunnel going from the intake to the pump station. That's about an 8,800-foot-long tunnel. Substantial amount of concrete went into that operation. They have completed that and removed the formwork, taken that tunnel all the way back, if you remember having gone down there before, all the way back now to the main shaft. They have then gone back into the tunnel, and they're completing some final work at the tie-ins for the 2 intakes at the far end of the tunnel to complete that tie-in to the cast-in-place concrete liner. And the contractor's now preparing to do the lining of the main shaft. There's a portion on the bottom of the main shaft where they had not done the concrete work. They wanted to wait until they brought the intake tunnel concrete back to the main shaft, so now they're working on tying in the main shaft concrete to the tunnel concrete. Work is also ongoing for the pump shafts. There's a total of 6 pump shafts on the project. The contractor's going through a process of mining out those shafts with raised bore construction, installing a steel casing within those shafts, and then lining that steel casing, backfilling it with grout. Happy to report the contractor has now completed 2 of the pump shafts. Pump shaft number 2 and number 5 were completed about a week ago, and so they're moving over to starting the raise bore operation for pump shaft 1. And you can see a couple photos of those shafts looking both from up at grade at the pump station side and then down beneath at the suction chamber. In the last few weeks, the contractor has also completed a major work effort at the end of Trails End Road, where they needed to go into the 78-inch diameter pipeline that had previously been installed during Phase 1A and add a butterfly valve, a 78-inch butterfly valve, to the end of that line. That work did require a shutdown to complete it, which had been coordinated and scheduled with the cities. They were able to get that valve installed within the 5-day shutdown window that we had set aside for that work, and operation is resumed to BCRUA water plant. For upcoming work on Phase 2, the critical path remains on the completion of the 5 pump shafts. There's actually 4 pump shafts and then another shaft that will be constructed for the transmission pipeline. At the same time, the contractor will continue working on the concrete for the main shaft. And then once the pump shafts have been complete, the contractor will do the cast-in-place concrete liner for the suction chamber, and that will essentially complete the majority of the underground work. The contractor TSJV is also planning to restart work at the maintenance building site, and then they have been working on the tie-in for the Sandy Creek Water Treatment Plant to the 78-inch line in Trails End Road, and some of that work will continue as well. Moving to Phase 1D, the notice to proceed was issued back in May of 2023. The estimated final completion for that project is April of this year. Contract value of $17 million with $11.3 million or 70% invoice to date, and 1 change order. The contractor for this project is Excel Construction, and Excel Construction has been completing a great deal of work out at that project site. Some of the recent work that's been completed is the construction of the raw water head tanks that you can see a photograph of here. They have also completed construction of the treatment basin and installed the majority of the equipment in the treatment basin, as well as having successfully completed leakage testing of the basin. The contractor has also constructed the thickener and installed the equipment in the thickener, and has also installed the belt press. They've had a lot of crews out there working really hard on this project, advancing it forward pretty rapidly. The main upcoming work that they'll be completing is some of the improvements to the chemical feed systems, and then we'll go through a commissioning and startup phase. On the underwater pipeline, that project has been substantially complete for a fairly long time. You guys remembered we got that pipeline installed after a shutdown. There was one punch list item that needed to be completed on that. There's a 36-inch valve over at Trails End Road that the actuator had been installed incorrectly, but we couldn't get in there to address that until there was a line shutdown. So while the Phase 2 contractor was working on installing that valve at the end of Trails End Road, they also went in and repaired this actuator so that it would operate correctly, which now means this project is complete, and I will hopefully not be giving you any updates on it again. For the delivery point improvements project, you guys remember we broke that into 2 phases. Phase 1 is scheduled to be complete at the end of this month. They're very, very close. They've invoiced $425,000 out of the $456,000 contract value. We're tracking 1 change order on the project. Essentially, the work that remains at this point is to complete some of the necessary training and then to address some punch list items. On Phase 2, we have a substantial completion date of April 4th for this project. The contractor is on schedule right now. They're on time to complete by that date. The contract value was $612,000. There's no change orders to date. The primary upcoming activity right now is they've built their panels, so they need to go install them, and then we'll start looking forward to commissioning and startup. And then lastly, the Phase 2A water treatment plant expansion. The 90% design was submitted from our engineering team to the BCRUA Oversight Committee just this week. We're anticipating, after addressing any comments on 90%, to prepare the 100% bid documents. Then we'll enter into a permitting phase, primarily working with TCEQ and the Water Development Board, as this is being funded by SWIFT, and so we anticipate getting approvals from Water Development Board. We'll have procurement phase through the summer, and we'll be targeting getting a contractor and NTP late summer of this year. I had mentioned the SWIFT application. We are currently working on pulling together the abridged application to submit to the Water Development Board. Leander and Round Rock are both participants in preparing that application. Cedar Park is not a participant in Phase 2A. And the funding we'll be looking for is for construction of Phase 2A as well as construction phase services. The abridged application, we've gone through this process with you many times, but the abridged application will be due February 3rd. After we submit that to the Water Development Board, they will rank all of their applications and then notify those who make the final cut to submit a final application. Final applications are typically due around the beginning of May. We get notified around the beginning of April. So we will submit the abridged application in a little over a week, and then we'll have a period of not hearing anything. But once we get to the month of April, we will have a lot of activities coordinating with BCRUA Board, as well as the Leander and Round Rock City Councils to get all the authorizations that we need to submit that final application. Can I answer any questions?
Just two questions. You mentioned in the 1D thickener. What does that mean in layman's terms?
It's for the residuals management, solids that we remove during the treatment process. We thicken those down in that basin before we run them through a belt filter press to continue to remove water out of those solids before we send it to landfill.
Okay. And then the Phase 2 of the treatment plant, what does that take the capacity from to what?
We'll be taking, when Phase 2 comes, Phase 1D, so the current plant capacity is 32.5 MGD. When Phase 1D is complete, we'll be at roughly 42 MGD. When Phase 2A comes online, it'll take the plant up to approximately 64 MGD.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right.
Great.
Thank you for the update. All right, we'll move to 5B, consider a status update from the general manager regarding the 2025 SWIFT loan abridged application, TWDB.
I'm
Sorry.
happy to say that that was just given by
Yes.
Mr. Aaron Archer.
It was.
And I made a lot of notes that he did a much better job, so.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 6A, consider a resolution accepting the BCRUA quarterly investment report for July 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024. Welcome.
Hello, President and board members. I'll remind you again, I'm Susan Morgan. I'm the CFO here in Round Rock. This is your quarterly investment report through September 30th. Not a lot of activity during that quarter. It's pretty quiet. Had 3 maturities and 3 reinvestments. The balances went from $114 million to $108 million because you are spending money on all the projects that Mr. Archer just talked through. Just to give you an idea of how much spending has been going on these projects, in December of 23, at the end of December 2023, you had the portfolio had about $150 million in it. Now you're down to 108, which is what you would expect. Since this September 30th, you have had one major transaction. The SWIFT loans for both the city of Leander and the city of Round Rock has closed. That was on November 15th. So city of Leander's was 39.1 million and Round Rock's was 31.5. So you'll see, when you see the December report here in a month or two, you'll see a big bump in those cash balances, but we'll just turn right around and start spending those down on those projects. So, but other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the update. Any questions? All right, thank you. We'll move to item 6B, consider a resolution approving an updated, oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. Thank you. Do I have a motion for 6A?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. And now we'll move to 6B, consider a resolution approving an updated annual investment policy strategy and approved broker-dealer list.
President and members, this is your annual investment policy update. There were no recommended changes, couple of date changes, so there's no changes to the policy. It's working well. It's within the Public Funds Investment Act and within the general, works the same general way that all three cities conduct their separate investing. The broker-dealer list has been updated. Meter, your investment advisor, just updates that annually for all of the ones that they may choose to use, and there's not any issues. None of the cities have any issues with any of those on that list. I will point out in your resolution, it talks about designating investment officers. My name's not on there because I'm about to retire, so we went ahead and pulled that out. However, my replacement is already on that list because Kevin Klosterboer from Cedar Park is coming back home to Round Rock here in the next few weeks. But that will need to get updated the next 2 or 3 months, but that'll be, Sam will bring that to you, and should be an easy routine thing to do. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on the policy.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
No? All right. And this is an action item.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then item 6C, consider a resolution authorizing the board president to execute a contract for engineering services with Walker Partners Engineering for the BCRUA Asset Management Plan Phase 2 project.
President and directors, this, this Phase 2 is really kind of on the heels of Phase 1, which was conducted in 2023 and completed late 23 about the time I started. We knew that we were going to do a Phase 2, which is just, there'll probably be several phases because it'll take us probably maybe 1 to 2 more years to really get this fully implemented. So, because we're moving, we don't want to move too quickly because we're kind of starting from scratch, but this Phase 2 is a contract with Walker Partners who will do the majority of the work. And let me go back to Phase 1. Phase 1 was really, and y'all probably know as much as I do about it, other than I've read the report several times, but Phase 1 was like a gap analysis of what gaps we have in our asset management, and there's quite a few, as you can imagine. And then it also recommended different strategies and softwares for moving forward with that. And so after having time myself personally to study that, and now that we're building a staff of operators that we didn't have last year, I think we know a lot more about what we need. And so we feel really, really good about moving forward with this Phase 2, even though, like I say, it's not the end all of the project. It's because we're going to learn more things with this Phase 2, so that we will have more work to do once we finish it. But anyhow, Phase 2 is going to go much deeper into the classification, the categorization, and the organization of hundreds and hundreds of assets, and putting them in these spatial plans so that you can see them on the fancy, maps on the computer, and then have all these databases with all the information for all the assets, all the maintenance, operations, manuals, and all that. Anyway, it's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of data crunching, and so that's going to be the majority of this. And plus, we're going to pretty much make the final selection probably on the software that we're going to use to populate with all of this data that we're going to be organizing with this phase of the study, and that software will probably be purchased in the next phase. And it's a pretty short-term project, maybe 5 to 6 months. So I think by the time we get to budget, we'll know what we need, what we think we'll need for the next phase. And the next phase, actually, I think we should by the end of the year, we should probably actually have some results and really be able to start using it. But anyway, so this contract, it's got a total It's a time and materials not to exceed $115,530. We had included $75,000 in the budget for this year, kind of not knowing really what it was going to be. And quite frankly, 115 is still a fairly, it's a pretty modest number, and compared to what some of the numbers I saw in the original study that was done. And so, but the remaining money, which is $40,530, will come from another account in the budget, which I've discussed and shown that to the operating committee and the finance people. And so we have adequate funding for it in the budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And otherwise, the operation, OC committees are aware of it, they support it. And so we're recommending approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? No?
Thank you.
This is an action item.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to item 6D, consider a resolution authorizing the board president to execute an assignment of contract for engineering services from the cities of Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock.
To me, right?
Well, I think,
Okay.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's fine, yeah. So, before the BCRUA even existed, when the three cities were just working together to start this system, we entered into a contract for engineering services. And at the time, we anticipated that there was going to be we didn't know it was going to be called the BCRUA at the time, but we anticipated that there was going to be some sort of legal entity that involved the three cities, and that the contract that was entered into would need to be assigned. Unfortunately, when we created the BCRUA, 15 years ago or so, we forgot to do that. So it's now time to correct the paperwork. So the three cities have already approved the assignment of that contract, and so at this point, the BCRUA is being asked to accept that assignment.
Okay, thank you for the
Okay.
cleanup. Yeah, we want to get that. And this is an action item.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. And now we're going to move into 7A, consider an executive session as authorized by 551-071 of the Government Code related to consultation with the board's attorneys regarding pending and/or contemplated litigation. The time is now 6:25, and we will adjourn to executive session. Now ready? All right. It is 7:11, and we're back in session, and we'll begin with our director closing comments tonight. And normally I would go last, but I'm going to go first tonight because we are volunteers, and we do a lot of the work we do because we want to improve the quality of life for the people we serve. And we want to recognize one of our directors tonight, as we do from time to time, recognize their service and dedication to this board. So we want to recognize Jason Anderson tonight for all of his work on BCRUA. He has been a part of this board since 2019, so I believe that's 6 years almost. So dedicating lots of time and expertise to this board. So we want to recognize you and thank you for that. And we have an award tonight that says Jason Anderson, board member from June 2019 to present. Thank you for your dedication and commitment on behalf of Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, Inc., a regional partnership of Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock. So thank you for your service. We appreciate you.
And thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve.
Excellent. And we will wrap up tonight with our closing comments. Vice President Duffy.
Well, thank you to everyone, and especially thank you to Jason. I've enjoyed all of our time together and your expertise, and we will always have your
Excellent.
memory. Well, you're still here, of course.
And Secretary Flores.
Jason, thank you. Appreciate all your efforts, and being here, especially as a volunteer, is even better. But thanks to OC, thanks to everybody, and good night.
Excellent. Director Montgomery.
Congratulations and good night.
And Director Kirkland.
I think we came on at about the same time, and most of this board is elected officials. You being a citizen director have added a lot of depth and knowledge and expertise to this board. So thank you very much for your service here. Everyone take care. Have a safe ride home. Good night.
And last but definitely not least, Director Anderson.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really has been a pleasure to serve on this board. I'm glad I could bring what I have to it and look forward to the future. Good night.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and we will, or do you want to, are you good? I thought you were trying to say something. Oh, okay. I didn't want to stop you.
I would like to say just, I haven't worked with you for very long, Jason, but this last year that I've gotten to know you a lot better has been very, very fun and meaningful. And yeah, your service. I never knew that you had all that experience on P&Z and of course all the engineering experience. So anyway, you bring a lot to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, the time is now 7:14, and we are adjourned for tonight.